Alright, so we're going to run through database quickly. So database, there are two types of databases we have. We have the manual database and we have the computerized database. Now what is a database? A database is basically a method of storing data in an organized manner. Now manual databases, that's going to be all of the manual methods of storing data. Your filing cabinets, your bookshelf, the library, the physical library, those are all manual methods. Now computerized method is obviously, as the name implies, is a computerized, you're storing the data on a computer. Who are going to use databases? Well, we have databases being used for booking holidays, airline tickets, online stores, and so on. What is a database management system? It's basically any program that handles the storage, modification, retrieval of data, as well as controlling the access to the information. And that's basically the softwares for database, which is an example that we looked at, Microsoft Access. Now, some of the advantages and disadvantages. Well, the advantage, well, everything that deals with computer, we save time, we save money, we process our data faster, we can make edits faster. But the disadvantage, you gotta go and pay for equipment, the information can be hacked, you gotta train the person how to use the database. Those are some of the advantages and disadvantages. Now, the key information, remember, a database is basically the entire file. In a computerized database, that is the entire file. Inside of your database, you're going to create what is called a table. The table is what is going to store your data. Data is only stored in tables. Now, inside of the table, each table is going to have what is called a record, because a record is made up of fields. So field is your smallest piece of data. That is where it's going to store each individual piece of data in your table. And the combination of those fields are going to be your record. Now, what is an object? An object is basically the parts of your database. What makes up your database? The tables, the forms, the queries, the reports, the macros, the modules. Those all make up your computerized database. What is a database? A collection of tables, because remember, your tables are what stores your data. What is a table? A table is basically a collection of records that is going to be storing data on a specific topic. What is a query? A query is basically asking a question to the database to get back a piece of information. What is a form? A form is a graphical user interface that is going to allow you to enter data into your database. So it's basically connected to your table, because your table is what stores your data. So the form is kind of like a graphical representation of your table, so that you can enter data, display data, search for data, and so on. And lastly, you have a report, which is going to summarize and format data from your database. So first, when you're creating a database, you have to create a table. That's the very first step. Now, inside of your table, you're going to create what is called a field name. A field name is basically your column heading of the data that is going to be stored inside of it. So if your first field name is first name, that basically means first name is going to be stored inside of it. Now, what are the rules for creating a field name? Well, the name must be specific. It must tell you exactly what is supposed to be inside of it. And then lastly, it should have no space. A field name should have no space. What can you use instead? You can use a dash, you can use an underscore, you can use a period, or no space or no symbol at all. When you create that field name, you next create a data type for that field name to specify what type of data will be stored into that field. For example, we have short text and long text. What is the difference between the two? Short text only stores up to 256 characters. whereas long text stores an indefinite amount. We have the number data type, date and time, currency, auto number, the boolean, all object, which is for pictures, clips, sound, and so on, the lookup wizard, which is going to give you a drop down box, hyperlink, which gives you a normal web address link, and then you have an attachment, which gives you an image, spreadsheet file, document, and so on. The name basically indicates what it does, what type of data that's going to be stored there. Remember, if you have any questions, let me know. Now, after you created that field, you set the data type, in the field property is where you're going to find the field length. The field length specifies how much data can be stored in that field. 6 characters, 10 characters, 15 characters, how much ever can be stored. Your description. What is the purpose of your description? Description is to give you additional information for that field. So the person just looks at it and they know what information can be stored there. Your properties. Your properties are basically additional options and features for your field, and these are the field properties. You have field size, which tells you how much data can be entered. The format, so just like in spreadsheet, how you could have formatted your data, you can format the number, format the date, and so on. You can say how many decimal place. The input mask sets a pattern. So for instance, you have a telephone number, you say it was the pattern of entering the data, that can be the input mask. Your caption is basically like giving an alternative to the field name, because we know, for instance, the field name is not supposed to be long, the field name should not have any spaces, so you can actually put that in the caption. A default value, this is what is going to appear inside of the record. So say for instance, you might not be able to enter a value into that field, and a field should not be left blank, so a default value can appear. Validation rule, validation text. A validation rule is a rule that you're going to follow to enter data, and when you do not follow that rule, you're going to get the error message, which is called the validation text. The required field property, this here is to state that you cannot leave a field blank. It is required for you to enter the data. Allow zero length, determines whether or not you can enter a question, quotation mark, to indicate that there is no data. So for example, you might not have the data, or there might be no data. You turn down required, but there is no data. So allow zero length, you put in double quotation mark to represent it has no data, but it accepts it as no data basically. And then an index, it basically sorts your database in a particular order so that it speeds up retrieval, entry, and so on. What is a primary key? A primary key is used to identify the record. Remember, your database is made up of records, so each record must be identified. The primary key is used to identify it. It must be a unique field. Obviously, only a unique information can identify it. A candidate key is a field that can become the primary key. It's a candidate. Just like how the presidential candidate, he has the potential of being the president. Candidate key can become the primary key, but it is not the primary key. A composite key is a primary key, but it is made up of 2 or more fields. And a foreign key is a primary key in one table, a field that is a primary key in one table, but it is a normal field in another table. It's not a primary key in another table. Relationships. What is the purpose of the relationship? The purpose of the relationship is to show how the tables are related to each other. Whenever you're creating a database, you do not repeat data. So say you have information in one table and you create another table, you do not put the same information in both tables. you use something that would represent that information in the other table. That's why we create primary keys, to show how the two tables are, how they're related to each other. So like for instance, you have a customer over here. The primary key is going to identify that customer over here. But how will we know the two are related? By means of the relationship. The relationship is what will tell us that those two records are related. What are types of relationship? We have one-to-one, which is basically the connection of two primary keys. Because one meaning that the field appears one time on one side and the field appears one time on the other side, hence one-to-one. And hence why it's between two primary key, because a primary key is already unique. There's no values repeating. Next we have a one-to-many. This indicates that the field is going to only appear one time on the one side, and the other information is going to appear multiple times on the many side. Remember, the many side is going to have an infinity sign or M, and the one indicates the one side. A form. We talked about a form already. So a form is basically a graphical method of entering your data. Now in the form we have methods of entering data automatically. Those are going to be your value list and combo box, which is like a drop down box, but they call it a value list or combo box. We have the yes no checkbox, and what else do we have? Yeah, so this here is the combo list, the drop down box, which allows us to automatically enter data, and we have the yes no checkboxes. Alright, searching for data. Searching for data is the query. Remember, the query is basically you're asking a question to the database. Now when you're asking this question, there are two types of questions basically you'll be asking. Well, you use the operators to ask. So you might ask if something is greater than, more than, less than, and so on. But you can actually combine multiple questions together. And the asterisk, remember, that is used as a wildcard. So if you see asterisk R, that indicates everything ending with the letter R. If you see R asterisk, that is everything starting with R. And if you see asterisk R asterisk, that indicates it's starting with R, and it is anything that has R in the middle, basically. Anything that's R in the middle. Yes. So when you're using queries with more than one field, that is called a complicated query or a complex query. One that uses one field, that is going to be a simple query. Now when we're asking this question here, we have two types of query. We have an AND query, which is kind of like our AND gate, where we were looking at the other day. So the AND gate says that both have to be true in order for the final output to be true. So this here has to be true. It has to be less than 5, and it has to be greater than 100 at the same time for the final outputs to be true. That is the AND query. Now similar to the OR query now, remember the OR has the criterias in different rows. So if you notice over here, we have a criterion OR row. And similar to the logic gate, once again, it's whichever is true, that's going to lead to the final output is going to be true. So if this is true, it gives you all the true. If this is true, it gives you all of the true. So the OR criteria answers the question one after each other, basically. It looks at everything less than 5, and it looks at everything greater than 100. And then the last type of question is the NOT um, operator, or the not criteria, which is just like the not operator in the logic gate. It gives you the opposite. So you want everything except loop. You want everything except a particular. Excuse me. You want everything except a particular number. So that there is a not. That is how you sort. You basically select the sorting option there. A calculated field. How do you create a calculated field? This here is the syntax. The new field name followed by a colon, and then the expression. The expression is basically the operations that you're going to have carried out. So if you're going to use a field name, remember it's going to be in a square bracket. So total cost is the new field name followed by a colon to indicate that's the end of the field name. Then in the square brackets, that is where you're going to indicate what field names are in the calculation, and the operators are the same symbols you know of. Now if you want to use a number, that's basically going to replace the value there. So that's going to be 5 times cost. So you don't have to actually put that in square brackets. Your aggregate functions, you have the group by, you have the sum, average, min, max, and so on. So that's gonna basically summarize the information in the query for you. You can use calculated field with text. So this is an example here, like when you want to join 2 words together. So like maybe first and last name, because remember we usually have that in different fields. Or maybe even the address. You want to merge it together. This is the new field name. This is the first field. And the and indicates you are joining them together. Now if you want space, this is basically how you're going to do it. You're going to have 2 ampersand and the quotation mark. And whatever is in the quotation mark, that's going to basically give you your space. Now what is this error message here? The enter parameter value, it basically means that you would have entered you would have used the wrong field name. So it's not finding that that field with that wrong name. That's all basically it's telling you, that you used the field with the wrong name. So it's basically asking you to correct that. Reports, as mentioned, reports is basically a method of presenting your data. Now, we have 2 forms of report. We have tabular and columnar. So, in the tabular, the information is in the tabs, or basically in the column. It's kind of like reverse. The information comes down in columns in the tabular. Excuse me. And in the columnar, it's like, let me see. Let me not say it that way. Tab is basically what goes across. So if you notice, each unique information goes across. So that's what you see in here. Each unique information goes across. So hence that's why it's called tabular. Each unique information goes across. Whereas columnar, all of the information is in one column. All the field names in one column, and all the information for that is in one column. So everything basically takes up one record basically takes up one page or one section, whereas in the tabular, one record takes up a line. When it comes to importing a document, this is for any type of importing, whether it's Word, spreadsheet, database. Remember, when you're importing, you use what is called the delimiter to separate your information. So delimiters are basically the method of separating your information. So if I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and the next line 1, 2, 3, 4, The space here is my delimiter. One single space is separating it. Now if I use a tab like this here, tab, not sure why it's making the tab so small. Yeah, if I use tab like that to separate the information, in this case here, that is my delimiter. Or if I used a comma to separate my my data, that is my delimiter there also. And in the program of whatever I'm importing, whatever I'm exporting, I would specify what type of delimiter I am using, or what was the method of separating the data. And that's basically it there for database. Any questions on the database?
No, sir. Thanks.